I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us for Window on the World. In this series of programs, we look at the international studies and opportunities for international education at Missouri Southern State College. Today, we take a look at a group of students who spent their spring break in the spring of 1999 in Paris. And we're going to find out about their program, why they traveled there, and what they did. Joining me is Dr. Chad Stebbins with the Institute of International Studies, who also accompanied the students on the trip. Thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure.
Why don't we start with some of the basics? When did you go? What was the purpose of the trip?
Well, we did go over spring break, March the 22nd through the 26th. We actually flew in on a Sunday and left on a Sunday, so the students had the benefit of one full week in Paris. They were enrolled in a class at Missouri Southern titled the International Media Seminar, and this class had been in the works for about a year and a half. We first came up with the idea in November of 1997 after discussion with a man named Lee Hebner, who's now a journalism professor at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. But Mr. Hebner was a former publisher of the International Herald Tribune in Paris, and also a former president of the American University of Paris. And Lee organizes this seminar every year and invited Missouri Southern to participate.
So you had a group of students from Southern. How many were in the group?
Well, we had 18 students go, and of that group, only one had ever been to Paris before, and that was as a high school student.
So then while they were there, they went to some of these seminars and programs throughout the week with other students from around the world?
Right. There were students from Northwestern University and also students from Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. There were 38 students in all, and I think some of my students were a little apprehensive at first how they would stack up against Northwestern University, which is regarded as one of the probably top 3 journalism schools in the United States. And I think the Missouri Southern students held their own and maybe even outclassed the Northwestern students on several occasions.
Great. And of course, with being with the Institute of International Studies, people might be curious, was there financial aid available to help these students be able to afford this type of trip?
Well, almost all of the students received travel grants from the Institute that paid for most of their trip. The Institute did not provide money for souvenirs and that type of thing, but most of the costs were covered. And to receive a grant from the Institute, you have to have a 2.5 grade point average and be a full-time student, and almost all of my students qualified under those qualifications.
Great. So it shows the college support for this type of program and encouraging students to have the opportunity to travel abroad.
Right, and that's part of our international mission, sending as many of our students and faculty abroad as possible, as opposed to bringing in international students.
Great. Well, we're going to visit with some of the students on today's program, so I'd like to thank you for joining me to start off today.
All right, thank you.
And stay tuned. We'll visit with the students right after this. Welcome back. We're now visiting with students who traveled to Paris over spring break for the program. We have Jeff Billington, Andrea Colgin, and Don Craig. I'll start off by asking each of you, what would be your most memorable experience or memory from the trip? Jeff?
Well, I'll tell you what, the thing that seemed to inspire me the most, anyway, I don't know if 20 years from now it'll be the most memorable experience, but the thing, when we were at the Palace of Versailles, we got a chance to go to the Hall of Mirrors, and just being in that room where the treaty that was signed when Great Britain first recognized the United States as its own separate sovereign nation, that was probably the thing that affected me the most, just gave me that most inspirational feeling of the trip.
You were witnessing a place of history there.
Yes, just
really
being there, the same place where something like that happened.
Great. Andrea, how about your experience?
Probably the same, because the architecture was so beautiful, and there is a lot of history to that architecture, and so I'd say...
So it's a place you've heard a lot about. You actually got to see it and actually experience it as well by being there. And Don, how about your experience?
Well, I liked some of the same things, but what I really liked was meeting people that you wouldn't expect to talk to at the restaurant El Alsace. I met some people from the West Indies, and they gave us tips on what to do in Paris, things like that, because we were so lost all the time. I mean, I had so much trouble over there, but I navigated as well as I could, and people on the street were very friendly in comparison to what a lot of people told me. I mean, I was told all sorts of scary stories and things like that, but people exaggerate too much. I mean, the people over there are really nice. You just have to know how to communicate, but communicate in a way that they can understand, because after all, you're in a different culture. You're not in America, so you have to kind of think in their terms, a frame of reference.
So in addition to learning about the country, you learned and experienced the culture of France while you were there. You got to have those experiences as well. What if one of your fellow classmates who didn't make the trip asked you, how has this added to your educational experience? What would you say to that?
It's just basically broadened my mind. I've always known that foreign travel, that's something that it does do. It does open you up to other cultures. And when you learn about other cultures, you're learning about yourself at the same time and how you react to things that are different. They know people don't like change, but I think this just inspires that you can deal with a different background.
So really that different aspect of education. Would you agree with that? I see you're nodding your head as
Yes.
well. Okay. And Dawn, what would you say that how it's added to your educational experience?
Well, things that I guess I knew about what the country was like and the people and different things, I didn't really want to believe it until I went over there and saw, hey, this is really actually reality. It's not just something that I believe anymore.
So you can actually firsthand say, I know it's like this. I've been there and have experienced that. When you look at the trip and someone says, should I consider traveling abroad, what would you say to a fellow Missouri Southern student if they say, you know, I'm thinking about traveling abroad through this international program. Should I do that?
Oh, I would say definitely. It's just something uncomparable as far as the excitement of it, what you learn from it. If you would be making a huge mistake not to be able to enjoy something like this.
So you see this as something that will benefit all students if they have the opportunity.
I would tell them to do it. You know, they might not get the chance to do it again. So, and it was a wonderful experience.
And same with you, Dawn? You feel that it's something that you're glad it happened and you would expect others to do so?
Yes, well, I had several different opportunities at the same time. I wanted to go to Florida, but at the same time, I was Francis, so it was like France, Florida. So I chose to go to France, and I was a nervous wreck because I always wanted to travel overseas, but the thing was, I didn't realize I was actually going, and then I guess one thing led to another, and I just kept thinking, nah, I won't be going. But then when I went, and it's like, I'm actually here. I mean, it just blew my mind, and still thinking about it. Eiffel Tower, and I loved the Notre Dame. That was awesome.
So actually, it sounds like it's really made a major impression on all of you. I'd like to thank you for joining me on this segment, and we have 3 more of your classmates who will be on the program, so stay tuned. We continue our program with more students who have returned from their trip to Paris, and I'll start off with the same sort of questions we had with the other group. What is your most memorable experience when someone asks you, what do you remember most about the trip?
Well, I remember most the interaction with the culture because I wasn't really that familiar with French language and stuff like that, so we had to rely what a little bit we knew before we went over. So I would say just the interaction with the culture and just discovering every little new thing that there was.
Good. How about you, Lance?
Oh, I like the metro. Everywhere we went, we had to ride on the metro, and usually there was a story to tell. At some point, we ran into a guy burning hash on one of the metros, and another one, he was drunk and tried to serenade the girls that was in our group, and I can't remember what he was trying to sing, but it was amusing.
So definitely left an impression.
Yeah, lasting impression for sure.
How about you, Aaron?
I would say the caliber of the speakers who were at the program. We found ourselves in the midst of some of the greatest journalists that are in the business today, and some of the legends who were in the business in years past. People like Bill Pfaff and Flora Lewis, who are icons in the business, I suppose. They really left the best impression on me. Just the privilege to talk to them about some of the big news events they've been a part of over the past 50 years.
Great. Of course, you were taking this trip as part of a course at Missouri Southern. How did it tie into this educational experience, being able to attend these types of seminars?
It was very good. I learned a lot of things that I probably wouldn't even have the chance to become involved with just by this experience. Like, you know, like Aaron mentioned, just the high quality of people that we were able to talk to.
You also had an opportunity to meet other students from different places in the country, in the United States as well, who were there.
Yes, there were 2 or 3 other colleges involved, I believe, and Missouri Southern was well represented. Our attendance was great, and Mr. Hubner himself even commented on our attendance and just general manners. So it was quite an honor.
So, Aaron, if you were dealing with students from other colleges, you felt Missouri Southern did a good job in showing students who were interested in journalism and communications representing the area.
Yeah, I felt we showed a real hunger to suck up the culture we were in. I think it's important today, more so than maybe ever in our country's past, to have more of a global understanding of culture and of current events, since we are the lone superpower in the world today.
So about the international travels as well as the seminars, you got a blending of all sorts of different aspects. What sort of advice would you give to other students, maybe some underclassmen who are thinking about taking a similar trip in the future?
Well, I definitely say learn a little bit more of the language, because it will help you out a great deal, and just try to get an understanding for their culture, because just by doing that they will respect you no matter where you go, just by the fact that you took time out to find out a little bit about them.
What would you recommend for other students?
I would say relax, be a little more open-minded. Things are going to be different overseas than they are here. You know, you never know what's going to come your way as far as experiences are concerned, and you just have to roll with the punches. Some things are going to be completely different, and you're not going to be used to them, so just be able to handle them when the time arises.
So it really teaches you that flexibility.
Flexibility,
Adaptability.
absolutely, yeah.
Aaron, if someone asked you, should I take a similar trip like this in the future, what would you tell him or her?
I would say absolutely, just because of the knowledge that we came back with, I think, in the experience. I think it's easy to get caught up in the grandeur of the city when you're there, and to maybe view it as more of a vacation, but if you approach it as a learning experience and as, you know, you're actually there as part of a class, approach it from that perspective, you come away with a greater, rounded value of the trip. You don't just see the city, you actually learn a lot more than if you were just to visit the sites, I suppose.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank the three of you for taking this brief amount of time and sharing your experiences with us.
Thanks for having us.
And stay tuned, because we'll visit with more students right after this. We continue visiting with students, and traditional question to begin this segment, what's your most memorable memory or experience from the trip? Scott?
Well, I have to say that to start off, my most memorable experience is the ability that I gained to break down stereotypes. I was prepped. I was given information about what Parisians were like, what French people were like, and their attitudes toward Americans. And I found the exact converse of what I was given. They were receptive, they were nice, they were friendly, as long as you respect their culture. And one of my most memorable experiences was waking up early one day before dawn and walking around the block of the neighborhood I stayed in. And I got a feel for the culture. I guess you could say I put my finger on the pulse of the Parisian culture. And I learned a lot and I saw a lot.
So that being able to experience firsthand was really helpful.
Exactly.
With that memory. How about your experiences? What stands out?
Well, I really liked Paris altogether. It was a wonderful atmosphere. It was really relaxed, and you got to walk everywhere, so you felt good during the whole trip. You got lots of exercise, and there are beautiful things to see, and it was just really neat to see what it feels like to be a foreigner, because, you know, a lot of times we have people around us that are in our country and we don't really know what it feels like, and so, but everyone was very welcoming and polite, I thought.
Great. Anything that stands out for your experiences?
I think that our trip to the International Herald Tribune, which is a wonderful daily international newspaper, really helped me with speaking one-on-one with the editor-in-chief, and he helped me with a problem that I was having on deciding a double major or major change, and really helped me decide to go ahead with the double major and get more emphasis in the area that would help me the most. And I found that the most valuable, because it was a problem that I've been fighting with, and to speak with somebody who actually does the hiring of a newspaper, it was really a nice effort for him to take the time to speak with us, because it really helped me make a decision that's going to affect the rest of my life.
Good. And tying into the educational experience, of course, this was part of a course. How did this play a role in that coursework and tying into communications and journalism interests?
Well, it was very interesting, first of all, to see respected people in the discipline and learn some of the cultural experiences that they've had throughout their life. But for me, one of the most educational things was my attitude. Before I left, I was prepped, and I prepped this as a mission. I had State Department briefings on the situation in Kosovo. I had emergency telephone numbers. I had all the things that kind of reflect this hypochondriac, like American culture. And when I left, I felt that those were unnecessary. And I felt that it was an experience instead of a mission. So to me, it was a personal educational experience.
Great. How about your feeling in the educational aspect?
We really got a feel for what it's like to be on the job, and they told us a lot about, you know, their responsibilities and what it takes to be a good reporter, or, you know, just the responsibilities mostly, and that was something that I was real interested in. It made me really want to work internationally, and I thought I wanted to stay around here, but now I know that I want to do more than that.
So it served as inspiration for you
Yes.
and personal goals. Educational, tying it into the coursework aspect?
I think that just the magnitude of the people that we got to speak with, and a lot of one-on-one after they gave their presentation to us, I think that all of us grew educationally and personally over there, because you cannot speak to people that are so well known and so well developed in their field without you growing as a person also. And as a trip, I know that the group before we went and the group after we came back, we all have a little more of an idea of what we wanted to do, and just speaking to people who have actually made a very successful career is just a wonderful opportunity. And I know we're all very thankful that we got the chance, because it was just the awesome magnitudes of some of the people that we spoke with was just really incredible.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank the three of you for taking time to visit with us on this portion of the show.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
stay tuned. We're going to visit with more students right after this. We're sharing memories of Paris in spring of 1999, and we're going to start off with a question dealing with those memories. If someone asks you, what's the most memorable aspect of your trip, what would you say? Jacque?
Probably going to the Louvre. That was probably the most memorable experience. Just seeing the Mona Lisa, the sculptures, it was just amazing. It was really amazing how beautiful just the colors and how detailed all these sculptures were. I mean, I was really amazed. And they let you take photographs. That flash photography, really, and I was really surprised about that, how they let you do that.
So something that you've studied and seen in pictures in many places you actually saw in person.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Marla, how about your experience? What stands out as far as the most memorable aspect of the trip?
Well, seeing the Eiffel Tower is the one that stands out in my mind, because first of all, that was the very first thing I saw when we arrived there, and just the immenseness of being at the bottom and actually getting to ride up in it was one of them, and walking along the Seine River and going to Notre Dame.
So some of these sites that you see about and hear about, you actually experienced them. And the Eiffel Tower, people see pictures of it everywhere, but those pictures probably don't do justice when you're actually there.
No, it's much more awesome.
And how about your experiences when you're thinking about looking back on the trip?
There was one afternoon that really stands out in my mind. I'd visited the Rodin Museum to see the Thinker and the Kiss, and all of the magnificent sculpture there, and a lot of the sculptures are in the garden, so it was just really a perfect day and just a perfect experience checking out that. I was walking along and a woman stopped to ask for directions, and she was from Peru, and she was trying to get to a train station to get to Germany. So she and I were in France conversing in Spanish, and an English couple stopped to help us. So it was really pretty interesting.
Multi-international discussion.
Absolutely.
Things together. Of course, you all traveled with a group of students in a class at Missouri Southern. What were some of the aspects of being able to travel with your colleagues, your classmates, and share this type of experience?
Some of the aspects.
Was it beneficial to be able to travel with other students who are also interested in communications?
Oh yeah. I mean, just for the language part. I mean, I studied Spanish also, because I didn't realize this trip would come along. But just to be with other students, that if maybe you didn't understand what they were saying, then maybe one of the other students got some sort of grasp for what they were saying. But yeah, it really did. It was very beneficial.
Were you able to share some of your experiences then as you came back each evening after going to the seminars and the sessions and so forth?
Yes, it was really an added support system. I mean, especially in the metro stations. I mean, if there hadn't been someone there, you would have felt really lost. And also being able just to talk about it. I mean, most of us don't speak French, so having someone there to understand the language barriers was also helpful.
So that teamwork really helped out with your experiences. Do you find that this continues after you've returned from the trip as well, that you are continuing to work together?
Absolutely, because there's a wide age group. Obviously, I'm an older student, but you really get close to this group, and you splinter off with different people, different days, and then you kind of compare notes. Okay, have you been to Notre Dame yet? Have you seen this? And it's great to have the chance to, to get to know them, as well as all the different experiences with the terrific journalists and all that we got to see and do.
Great. Well, thank the three of you for visiting with me on this portion of the program. And stay tuned, we'll be back with more right after this. Memories of Paris in the spring of '99, and we have a new group of students to share some of their memories. We'll start off with Donnie Simon. Tell me what stands out in your mind, the memory of the trip.
Well, it was a fabulous experience. I'd hope to go back very soon. I think one of the more memorable experiences I had was a funny moment when a group of us were going to find Notre Dame, and we were trying to find the nearest metro station, which metro is the subway. And I was kind of the designated translator of the group, for better or for worse, because I've taken a few semesters of French. And I got up enough nerve to ask some people who were walking the other direction. You know, I said, pardon-moi, monsieur, madame, où est le métro, s'il vous plaît? You know, where's the metro? And they looked at me with their big eyes and said, I don't know, can you speak English? We're American. So from then on, I decided that I really didn't need to speak that much French, because a lot of people know English over there, thankfully.
So you can communicate quite well as you look at that. Sarah, how about your experiences? What stands out?
Well, actually, my most memorable experience wasn't really all that French. We saw Bruce Willis one night at Planet Hollywood. He was coming to an opening of, they were changing their menu, and so he was there. I guess they bring in someone every time they change a menu or do something to change the restaurant, and so we waited in line for 3 hours in the rain to see Bruce Willis, but it was really worth it to me. And Wesley Snipes was there, but we didn't even see him because we were looking at Bruce. But also, more seriously, we saw the Victor Hugo Museum, where he used to live. That was his apartment originally, and it was amazing to me because I love Victor Hugo. He's the writer of Les Miserables and a couple other books, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and it was just really neat to see actually the desk that he wrote at and see the bed that he slept in, original photographs of him and his family, and to me that was really interesting.
So someone who you have followed and actually see the living place where he lived would be quite a sight. How about your experiences?
What I appreciated most were the landmarks of the city of Paris, visiting Notre Dame, the Eiffel Tower, just the sights that tourists go to Paris to see. And also on Saturday we went to the Chateau of Versailles, the home of Louis XIV, Napoleon, and French government and rulers since then. And so it was amazing to walk the halls and see the walls where so much history has occurred.
So it sounds like in addition to the educational aspects of going to seminars, you actually had that cultural experience as an important part of the trip.
Yeah. There was, we were told that there were basically two Parises, Paris in the daytime and Paris in the nighttime. And we got to experience both, so we can say that we've experienced just a small portion of Paris, because there's so much more to do. Unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of time to see everything that we wanted, because there's so much to do in that city. But I think each of us got to see a few different things, and we can talk about our experiences.
I think all of us managed to see the things that were most important to us. You know, we each got to see probably, 10 things that we really wanted to see. And of course, all of us had things that we wish that we could have had time to see, though.
So really, you were able to individually experience the trip, even though you were traveling with the group. Have these memories to bring back. I'd like to thank the three of you for visiting with us on this portion and sharing some of these memories with us. And stay tuned, because we'll be back with more students right after this. Joining me now are the final students who have traveled to Paris to share some of their experiences, and we'll start off with a similar question: is what stands out in your mind as the most memorable experience of your summer or your spring break trip?
I think that my most memorable experience would be when I first saw the Eiffel Tower, and it was something that I've seen throughout pictures and books, and have all of these pictures from other friends, and so when I finally did see it, it hit me that I was in Paris. The whole flight there, and just through the bus ride, and when we were at the airport, I didn't even think that we were in Paris until I saw the Eiffel Tower. So that has to be my most memorable experience.
So that real symbol of France and Paris,
oh, yeah.
let you know you were there.
It was nice. It was very nice.
Joetta, how about your experiences?
One night, Christy and I went walking. We decided to walk around our hotel, and our hotel was about 5 blocks from the Eiffel Tower. So we were walking around in that part of Paris, and we asked a passerby to take our picture. And this guy was an American, and he had married a Parisian and was living there, and he was originally from Brooklyn, New York. And so we walked with him for about 2 hours, and he was telling us what it was like to live in Paris and giving us some scoop on it. And so that was probably one of the most memorable moments, just talking to him, because he was an American and he did have the experience there.
So his cultural experiences were being shared with you as you were walking together. Angie, how about your experiences?
Well, mine's not so much Paris itself as much as it was the people I was with. My big thing about Paris is I wanted to see Notre Dame really bad. And we saw it several times, and I was just way impressed by it. And one night, me and Donnie and Lance took Dawn with us when we went exploring Paris. And the one thing that Dawn wanted to see more than anything was Charlemagne's statue. And we couldn't find it anywhere. And so we took her to Notre Dame, because she hadn't seen that either, and there was Charlemagne's statue right there. And just the way she was jumping everywhere, she was smiling, she was laughing, she was so excited about it. And it just, basically, it made her night, and she was just so upbeat all the rest of the night. I'll never forget that.
So you really had a lot of sharing among the members of the group as you were traveling and doing
Yes.
things together. And of course, you represented Missouri Southern at the seminars that you went to as well.
Right.
Did you find that these played an important role in your educational experience and what you were able to supplement with your communications experience?
Well, I've been taking 3 semesters. This is my 4th semester of taking French. So it was an experience going over there and finally being immersed in the culture, and you really don't get a handle of what the language is like and what the people are like until you go over there and you're completely in the surroundings of it. So I learned a lot with that, and then throughout the seminars continuously we were told about all these different jobs, and we had the experience of what all the correspondents did and what their job entailed, and so there was a lot of learning.
So it provided some information that you would not otherwise receive here on the campus at Missouri Southern.
Right.
That type of experience. If someone were to ask you, Joetta, should I take a similar trip? Would you recommend that to other students?
Definitely, definitely. Probably one of the things I liked most about the trip was that I got to meet some very prominent people in Paris. And the guy who basically put it together, he's a professor at Northwestern now, and he was a speechwriter for Richard Nixon. He was publisher of the International Herald Tribune. He was just a very prominent person. We got to meet a lot of other prominent journalists from the Washington Post and the New York Times and Newsweek, and that was something that I would have never gotten a chance to do so if I hadn't gone.
So international travel experiences not only the cultural, but in this case the educational, helping with your communications interests and studies as well. I'd like to thank the 3 of you for visiting with us on this portion of the program.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank the viewers for joining us this week for Window on the World. We've been looking at the trip to Paris in the spring of 1999 by a group of students here at Missouri Southern State College enrolled in a class with the communications department. Please join us again in future shows as we take looks at other opportunities for students to travel abroad, faculty experiences, as well as international education experiences on the campus of Missouri Southern. We'll see you then.